Hi there, have you checked Altenew's latest hat foil plates? Come join me and I'll show you how I'm going to use them to create a masculine layout for your memory keeping. Hi there and welcome to a new episode of Inspired by a Card with Natalie. Today's inspiration is going to come from Noreen Boris. She's part of the design team and this card is from the latest blog hop, and I'm actually very fascinated with the fact that she created a partial die cut for her card. So I'm going to use that idea for my background. So I'm starting by creating the foiled impression of the Sparkle Bright hat foil plate on white cardstock. I am using the color of the foil is Aura, and I'm following the instructions of my foiling machine to create the impression. Now you're gonna see that I'm actually creating the impression on a large piece of paper. I'm doing it in an 8.5 by 11, and I'm gonna trim this too so that it fits into a 6 by 8 layout. So like I said before, I'm just following the instructions of my glimmer machine in this case to create the impression, and I'm going to create two of them because I want to create two partial die cuts to kind of frame my title. At the same time, I'm going to use the Tiny Patterns hot foil plate. I'm using the little one that has the stripes pattern to create a few blocks of it on blue cardstock using teal foil. Now I also have an attachment for my machine that helps me create or use the negative pieces of the foil so I can create a reverse pattern of what I just did. So I chose to use the negative pieces from the stripe lines to create a negative pattern that has a lot of that teal foil, but this time I'm using white cardstock. So there's a contrast between the two of them. So I'm going to create all my foil ahead of time before I continue going. So now that my foil is ready, my pages are cool, first thing I'm going to do is stamp the images. For this I am using the Sparkle Bright stamp set and Obsidian ink, and it's very simple. I'm just going to make sure that my stamp layers on top of the foil, and once I stamp it, I'm going to make sure that it dries a little bit, and then I'm going to clean the ink from the top of the foil. As simple as that. Once I have the outline of my flower, I'm going to use the guide to help me add some color onto this flower, and for this I'm using the new inks. I am using Blueberry for the base of my flowers, then I'm going to use Tanzanite to help me create that the dimension, that depth of color that creates the impression on the flower, makes it more natural. And then for the leaves I am using Pistachio. Again, this is one of the new Crisp Dye Inks. And then for the centers of the flowers I'm gonna use Lemon Ice. These are all the new colors of inks that Altenew released recently, and I love the fact that the colors create a really masculine palette. So I'm playing with the navies and the teals that I used to create those stripy patterns. So you're gonna see, like I said before, that I actually stamp or any hard foil my flowers right on the center of the page. So the first thing I'm gonna do right now is trim the cardstock so that I can fit it into a 6 by 8 album. But I'm gonna make sure that I trim the cardstock really close to the top of the edge of the flowers. Then I'm gonna use the Sparkle Bright die set to create a partial impression. So to do that, I'm actually going to just make sure that I sandwich the part of the cardstock that I want to die cut, and the rest I'm going to leave it outside of the sandwich. That's just going to make sure that the machine only cuts the part that is between the sandwich. The rest is going to stay as is. And I'm going to do this on both sides of the papers. I'm going to just, like I said before, I'm trying to create an angle with them. So once I've created both sides of the die cuts, I'm actually going to use my X-Acto knife. I'm just using an X-Acto knife and my ruler to create the angle. I know that I want to create corner pieces for my layout with these foil pieces. So again, like I said, a ruler and an X-Acto knife. I'm just going to carefully cut only the negative pieces that surround the partial die cut, so that when I cut, like I take off those pieces, I'm left over with just the outline of the flower coming off of the paper. And then the key here is that I'm going to use the negative piece that I just cut out to help me create the opposite corner of the page. So that means I'm going to use it to create the second cut on the other flower. And you're going to see, simple, I'm just going to put it there and take my ruler and my X-Acto knife and just go ahead and create it, the cut. Because this part of the flower actually has more little pieces, I'm just going to use the X-Acto knife to mark the line, and then I'm going to come in with my scissors and finish trimming it, just so that I don't cut the small pieces. Once I have that in place, I'm actually gonna start assembling my layout. First thing I'm gonna do is I pull a piece of this is one of the binder pages, so I'm just going to, you know, kind of start setting up the idea. So the first thing I'm going to do is those little impressions that I had foil with the tiny patterns hot foil plate, I'm going to cut them into blocks. These blocks are 2 by 2 and a quarter by 2 7/8, the size of each rectangle, and I just wanted to kind of think of it as blocks. And the idea came, if you see the card that I'm using as inspiration, Noreen actually used a grid design for the back of her card, so I'm gonna pull some of those elements to make it more masculine. So you're gonna see that the paper that I'm using on the background of this page is actually from a future release from Altenew. It went really great with the layout and I couldn't pass it, so I'm just going to glue it to the back of my page, make sure that it frames the inside of my page, and then I'm gonna go ahead and glue the corner pieces that I created with the partial die cuts at the corners of my layout. So one's gonna be on the bottom right corner, and the other one's gonna be on the top one's going to be on the bottom left corner, and the other one is going to be on the top right corner. And then that's just going to frame my title. So I want to bring more of the foil look. For that, I'm actually going to use those small little blocks that I created with the tiny patterns hot foil plate, and I'm going to cut one of the block, the navy block with the teal lines, into 3 strips, and I'm also going to cut one of the ones that I created with the negative foil into 3 strips of the same size. They're 1/3 of an inch, I believe. And then I'm just gonna glue them. Think of it as creating a little border between the partial die cut and the blue background. That's all I want. It's just gonna bring more of that masculine look for it. Think of it as pink stripe, the colors. It's just gonna bring more of the foil look that I already have on the flowers, and also just bring more of that teal and blue that I'm playing with in this color palette in this layout. So simple as that. I'm just gonna glue them in between the partial die cut and my background. Any excess I'm just gonna trim off with a pair of scissors, and then at the bottom part of my layer, I'm going to use the blue with the teal foiling, and on the top, I'm going to use the negative teal hard foiling on white cardstock, and that's just going to bring those colors together. You're going to see that I place my paper so that it helps me, create that impression of going from dark to light. And that's pretty much all it's gonna take for my page here on the background. I'm gonna use some foam thickers from my stash just to create the word grateful, and then I'm gonna stamp the word always, and that's gonna come from the Sparkle Bright stamp set. And that's all it's gonna take for this part of the layout. This is the main, the focus part of it. And even though it's a masculine layout, a little bit of florals, it's actually makes it all much better. Now the photo that I have of my son is pretty simple, and I want to bring the look that I have on those stripes just to tie in the pages together. So the best idea is I'm actually gonna mimic that stripe of foil lines that I have, but instead of just creating it of one single color, I'm actually gonna think of it as creating blocks, a block look for it. So I'm gluing 2 of the navy with the teal foil plates at the top and bottom of the picture to the right of the picture, and right on the center I'm going to slip one of those really tealy foiled little pieces, and that's about it. You're gonna see that I'm just gonna add a little sticker. I'm gonna add my lines to journal right underneath the photo, and that's about it. I don't need that much more because I already have all the foil going. I hope this actually gives you some inspiration on how to use the new hard foil plates and how to use a nice very neutral masculine palette to create a memory keeping layer or your next project. As always, you can find all the details in the blog, and you can always contact me. Remember to also subscribe to the channel for great content. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.